I was excluded from my sister's wedding, the shocking reason why. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My sister texted, "Do not come to my wedding." The message landed at 7:12 p.m., a bubble that swallowed the noise of my EMT rig and left only the throb of the engine. I stared until the letters blurred, the way tail lights smear in rain. I'm Evan, 30, the brother who fixes flats at midnight and knows how to stop bleeding with a coffee mug and a belt. Lena taught me to ride a bike, and I taught her to lie to mom about sneaking into R-rated movies. This wedding mattered because it was the last normal thing holding our family together after years of silent comparisons. Her perfect photos, my long shifts, the constant joke that I collect tragedies for a living. I texted, "Why?" She replied, "Don't make this harder." Harder than what? I pictured Nolan's practiced smile, the immaculate suit, the venue's chandeliered foyer. I imagined our mother, smoothing a table runner and worrying about seating charts like they could spell love. Aunt May called, her voice a worn quilt. "Breathe first," she said. "Then write down exactly what happened." I did. Time, screenshot, battery percent, my location on Eastburn and 3rd. The air felt thin, like the moment before a crash when drivers blink and still hit. Somewhere inside me, something snapped awake, the same part that starts checking pulses even as people scream. If I'm uninvited for asking questions, maybe the answers are the kind that burn. The rig rolled past the venue's billboard, and I caught my reflection. Tired, stubborn, the brother who won't shut up. And I knew, as sure as I know how to count respirations, that this wouldn't stay private for long. I hit call on Lena, and someone else answered instead of her. "Hello?" A man's voice, polished, bored. Then the line went dead. Childhood came back like a slap. Lena on the honor roll, me bringing home participation certificates from rec league. Dad, before he left, called Lena the hope, and me the heart. Like the heart was a consolation prize you hold while the hope collects scholarships. After Dad drifted out of state, Mom learned to weaponize appearances. "Smile," she would hiss through her teeth at church. "We are fine." The wedding was her Super Bowl, and Lena was the quarterback, Nolan the sponsor, I guess. Last week at the tasting, Nolan had clapped my shoulder while we sampled a lemon thyme cake. "Hero work," he said, smiling too wide. But weddings need heroes who wear tuxes, not uniforms. Lena giggled, light and apologetic. I laughed, too, because people expect you to laugh when they put you in a smaller chair. Later, in the parking lot, Aunt May smoked and said, "He's lacquer. Pretty, but you can't sit on it." At brunch on Sunday, I told Lena the bartenders were on strike 2 venues over and deliveries were being rerouted. "Don't bring chaos," Mom snapped, like I had smuggled in a storm cloud. Lena kissed my cheek and whispered, "Just be there on time." And I would have been, even early, in a cheap suit that wouldn't announce itself. Now, with one text, I was a threat to the photograph. I scrolled the wedding group chat and watched the bubbles flow without me. Final seating. Florals moved to alcove, like a parade I'd been pushed behind. Somewhere between Lena's loyalty to calm and Nolan's loyalty to image, I had become the squeaky hinge. At 7:21, another message appeared. "Stop calling. You're making this worse." I wasn't calling. My log showed only the one attempt, but my number might have shown up if someone forwarded my contact to a block list. Aunt May texted, "Come over." Her kitchen smelled like toast and old coffee. "Tell me everything from last week," she said, pen poised. I started with the odd vendor message. An email the planner accidentally CC'd me on 2 days ago, requesting payment for additional security personnel at bride's request. But Lena hates attention, hates guards, hates men who stand with hands clasped and scanning. Then the seating chart that suddenly moved Aunt May to a courtesy table near the exit. I asked Nolan, I told her, and he said, "Vision evolves." 3rd, a payment request through Venmo to Lena, memo line deposit owed. Keep quiet, from a handle I didn't recognize. Lena had laughed it off. Inside joke. Maybe. Or maybe the kind of joke that requires cash to keep laughing. When I texted Nolan about the security and the mystery Venmo, he replied an hour later with a thumbs up and a champagne emoji. Not answers, confetti. I tried to shrug it off. People make weird choices when they're stressed. But as I scrolled the uninvite again, the shrug died. "They're herding you away," Aunt May said. "Why?" I thought of the planner's new assistant, face flushed, whispering to Nolan after the tasting. I thought of the way Lena's phone face down vibrated twice, and how she flinched like a knock on a door. I thought of Mom saying, "Don't bring chaos," as if truth were a tract in mud. Then Aunt May slid her phone over, showing me a screenshot I hadn't seen. It was a public Instagram story from the venue manager, posted that afternoon. A boomerang of an envelope labeled "Urgent" license file with a tiny champagne flute gif. "Bad taste," Aunt May muttered. The timestamp read 3:05 p.m. and the caption, "When they forget the basics." I knew from my roommate, who married last fall, that the marriage license isn't the venue's problem unless someone requests the manager to hand-deliver it for safekeeping. Weird. May called it, "They want a chain of custody." For what? At 5:10 p.m., a process server knocked at my apartment door while I changed into my night shift uniform. "Evan Hall?" he asked, gentle, like he expected me to bolt. The envelope was addressed to Evan Hall, care of Nolan Archer. Inside, a subpoena for records, communications regarding a personal loan co-signed by Lena, due at a hearing I knew nothing about. My name was in the thread as a contact Lena trusted for emergency advice. My stomach fell through the floor. I texted Lena, "What is this?" She replied, "Nolan's handling it." At 6:30, I drove to the rehearsal to return the envelope and ask questions. Nolan met me on the curb in his blazer without a tie, handsome as a storefront window. "Leave it," he said low. "You're stirring drama." People turned. He smiled bigger. "Evan's just excited." Laughter rippled like a cue. I felt the old heat. That flush that says pick up your dignity and go. The process server watched from across the street, hands in pockets. Then a woman I didn't recognize slipped a second phone into Nolan's jacket. By morning, I was out of the group chat. "Admin removed you," the gray text said. Mom called to say I was hurting Lena and should apologize to Nolan for misunderstanding how weddings work. I asked, "How do subpoenas and burner phones fit into peonies and vows?" She hung up. Friends from high school sent neutral texts, "Everything okay?" and retreated the moment I answered with anything other than "LOL yes." I printed what I had: the CC'd vendor email, the Instagram story screenshot, the subpoena cover page, timestamps highlighted. I wrote a timeline. Tasting jokes, Venmo hush note, second phone. Aunt May brewed black tea and helped me organize. "We don't accuse," she said. "We document." I left a voicemail for the venue manager, polite, curious, then reached the county clerk. Public records are public if you know which window to knock on. A clerk named Denise confirmed a prenup filing request stamped "Rush" under Nolan's name with a notation, "Addendum requested, bride's liability schedule." My head spun. Why put Lena's liabilities on an addendum? Could be a protective list, Aunt May said, or a trap. Meanwhile, my EMT supervisor texted, "Social media clean, no wedding posts on shift." I hadn't posted anything, but gossip runs faster than sirens. That night, I dreamt of seat assignments sliding on a screen, my name falling into a trash icon. I woke to darkness and my own name, spoken by no one. The apartment felt watched. Then a new email arrived from a vendor I hadn't contacted at all. Subject line, "Final payment reminder, confidential photo booth services." Body. As discussed, the second unit will arrive separately. Please remit by Friday to avoid cancellation. D. The attachment, an invoice for $3,800 addressed to Lena Hall, with a BCC field listing a burner address, Bridal Glovance plus Quiet at Proton. The memo, second booth, no guest uploads, hard copy only, private drive. A booth that collected photos without letting guests post them? I called the number at the bottom. "Daria," the woman said. When I asked about the burner, she hesitated. "We sometimes use an alias for high-profile clients who want discretion," she said. "Who authorized it?" "Nolan," she answered quickly, then added, "and the planner." I checked Lena's Instagram. Her last 3 posts were from months ago, comments curated, vendors tagged perfectly. Then Nolan's feed, glossy brand partnerships, hashtag grateful captions, nothing messy. I searched his tag photos and found a story reposted by a bar downtown last spring. Nolan buying a round for the league. Arm around a woman not Lena. Faces close. Timestamp 1:43 a.m. I saved it. The bartender replied to my DM within minutes. He left a black Amex with a different last name. Long story. My heart hammered. I called the bank listed on the subpoena, asked for general information about co-signed personal loans. The rep, cautious, told me how liens can attach to marital property if debts go sour, prenup or not, depending on jurisdiction and timing. Simple enough for me to understand, terrifying enough for me to feel. Then the venue manager called back and asked to meet in person tomorrow. The venue office smelled like citrus cleaner and ribbon. The manager, Ria, shut the door. We cannot appear to take sides, she said. But we also cannot be dragged into fraud. She slid a copy of a letter across the desk, names redacted but dates visible, confirming a temporary hold on the wedding if licensure discrepancies weren't resolved by noon Friday. Nolan assured us it's clerical, she said. But clerical doesn't usually arrive with bodyguards. I told her about the second photo booth. Ria grimaced. Celebrities hire those to control leaks. Your family is not celebrity. Outside, I called the planner's old assistant, Shay, whose phone number I found in a tagged photo from a previous wedding. Off the record, she said. Nolan insisted on separate vendor contracts paid through a marketing LLC, not the couple. I left. At the bank, I asked a manager for public information about UCC filings and learned to search the state database. 3 liens pinged under Nolan's company in the last 9 months, 2 released, 1 pending perfection. While scrolling, I saw a filing that listed guarantor, L. Hall, with a date 2 weeks after the engagement party. My throat closed. The timestamps didn't match Nolan's claims about everything handled months ago. I called Lena again. Voicemail. I typed, if your name is on any guarantee, text me okay. No response. On my way out, I passed Nolan in the lobby, talking to a man in a gray suit with a lapel pin. Nolan's eyes flicked to my folder, then to my face. He smiled like a knife being polished. Stop, he whispered as we brushed shoulders, or you won't just miss the wedding. At Aunt May's, we laid the paperwork out on her dining table like a crime scene diagram. What's he hiding? She asked. My phone buzzed. A reply from the downtown bar's bartender, Marco. He sent a zipped folder of receipts, tabs opened between April and July, amounts escalating, charges for private room fee. A signature scrawl matching Nolan's. One tab had a handwritten note. In. Pay from Archer Media, same as before. Same as before. I zoomed in on a line item, cash advance service fee. Who takes a cash advance at a bar? There were late-night ATM withdrawals inside the bar's lounge, fees stacked like Jenga blocks. We weren't looking at simple overspending. We were looking at an ecosystem built to siphon. Then Marco added, almost as an apology. He tipped great, but he was always with the same woman, dark hair, tattoo at wrist. I stared at the second phone in my memory, the private booth, the urgent license, the prenup addendum. He's running 2 lives, I said. One with Lena, one with whoever benefits from Archer Media's cash advances. But the deeper motive hovered, just out of reach. Debt, immigration, blackmail. Aunt May tapped the subpoena. He's trying to get ahead of discovery by scaring you quiet. I thought of Lena's laugh, light and apologetic. I thought of how fear smells on a person, metallic and sweet. If the wedding locked these structures in place, Lena could wake up married to a ledger she didn't understand. Then my phone rang with a number labeled blocked that I somehow already knew. Evan. Nolan's voice poured through the speaker like cologne. This is a misunderstanding. You're anxious, I get that. EMTs see things. Trauma brain. Let me take care of my future wife. I put him on speaker, hit record with the consent beep. Say again. I asked. Stand down, he said, all neutrality gone. Or I defend myself however I must. Click. Aunt May met my eyes. We need a grown-up, she said. Lawyer Carter, her friend from church, met us in his office that afternoon, a room full of binders named after years. I laid out the timeline, the filings, the receipts. Carter listened like a surgeon planning an incision. You don't expose hearsay, he said. You expose documents. Dates, signatures, transfers. He drafted a brief letter requesting confirmation from the bank about any guarantor obligations involving Lena to be delivered by hand. We pulled screenshots to a thumb drive, the bar receipts, the planner email, Ria's letter, the prenup rush note. Tomorrow morning, Carter said, we invite Lena to a meeting under the pretext of confirming her peace of mind. We invite Nolan, too, because his absence is confession. My hands shook. If I do this, she might never forgive me. Carter shrugged. If you don't, a court will introduce her to words like attachment, default, and marital debt. Choose your monster. Aunt May squeezed my shoulder. We save her from the photograph, she said. I sent Lena a simple text. Need 10 minutes tomorrow at Carter and Bell, 10 a.m. for your protection. Then Nolan replied from Lena's phone. If you show, I show, with my attorney and your mother. The rehearsal dinner glowed like a jewelry case. I walked in anyway, invited by no one, holding an envelope like a shield. Mom intercepted me in the vestibule, her smile stapled on. You will not ruin this, she whispered. People are watching. They should, I said. Nolan appeared with that polished boredom, the kind you learn from boarding schools and brand meetings. Our EMT hero, he said. Here to check pulses? He leaned in until only I could hear. If you keep going, I will file harassment. I will say you threatened me. He straightened, grin bright. We love a passionate brother, he announced to the room. Laughter, a clink of forks. My chest tightened. For a second, I saw the future where I apologized, hugged him, took my seat at the courtesy table, and played along until the house collapsed around Lena years later. Evan. Aunt May's voice cut through the treacle like a bell. She stood in the doorway, chin lifted. We leave now. Nolan's eyes glinted. Run, he murmured, but I'll still be there tomorrow. Outside, cool air unglued my lungs. Aunt May handed me water and said, They cannot gaslight paperwork. I nodded, shaky, the word harassment gnawing at my spine. Carter texted, Confirm 10 a.m. with Lena. I did. No reply. I stared at the typing ellipsis until it vanished like a dropped coin. At 9:41 p.m., Lena finally texted 4 words that changed everything. Please don't hate me. It wasn't a confirmation, but it was a door. I walked through at 9:42 by sending her a photo of the guarantor filing with her initial. 3 dots. What is that? She wrote. I typed, a hook with your name. Tomorrow at 10, answers. At 9:50, Carter emailed a neutral calendar invite to Lena and Nolan, subject line. Document clarification for peace of mind. Aunt May added cookies to our plan like we were packing for a field trip, which, in a way, we were, a trip into the grown-up world where signatures have fangs. Morning came clear and mean. In the conference room, Carter set up a projector and laid out binders. Rhea, the venue manager, agreed to attend by video, for logistics only. The bank manager, Ms. Patel, confirmed she could answer general questions as long as we didn't discuss protected account details. At 10:01, Lena entered, eyes swollen, hair perfect. Behind her, Nolan and a man with a linen pocket square, his attorney, took seats. Mom slipped in last, coat still on, mouth aligned. We appreciate everyone's time, Carter began. Our goal is clarity. Nolan laughed. Our goal is to end this farce. Carter clicked to the first slide, dates, amounts, the UCC filing naming L. Hall as guarantor. Then the receipts, then the double vendor contracts, then the private booth invoice. Nolan's attorney raised a hand. Irrelevant. Slander adjacent. Carter smiled politely. Documents rarely slander, counselor. Lena whispered, Nolan. Then MS. Patel cleared her throat and asked a single, devastating question. Mr. Archer, can you confirm whether Archer Media's outstanding balance is secured by any personal guarantees from parties present? The room chilled. Nolan's attorney intervened. We declined to answer. Confidential banking. Ms. Patel nodded. Understood. Then I will speak generally. Guarantor schedules must be specific, and addenda cannot be slipped in after signatures without initials. She tapped the projected addendum. These initials are traced. Gasps are quiet in real life, more like air going missing. Carter advanced to the bar receipts, then the Instagram story of the urgent license file. Why the rush? Carter asked mildly. Because, Ms. Patel said, without a valid, witnessed license, any attempt to merge accounts post-ceremony stalls. Rhea chimed in from the screen. And because we flagged security irregularities tied to off-site vendors and cash deliveries. Finally, Carter clicked to the photograph I dreaded. Nolan with the dark-haired woman, his hand at her waist, the tattoo at her wrist, a tiny anchor. Lena made a sound I've heard in ambulances, The sound bodies make when betrayed by their own beliefs. Nolan reached for her hand. She pulled away like from a hot stove. It's not what it looks like, he said, voice cracking. It's exactly what it looks like, Aunt May said, voice steady. Nolan's mask dropped for a bare second, contempt knifing through. You, he spat at me. You want her life ruined. Then Mom stood, and what she chose to defend took my breath away. I told you both, Mom said to Lena and me. That love requires sacrifice. We do not humiliate family in public. She turned to Nolan like a judge offering parole. You should have told us you needed help sooner. Lena covered her mouth. Mom, she whispered. He forged my initials. Nolan's attorney began gathering papers. We're done. Carter raised a palm. One more item. A proposed notice to vendors pausing the event pending verification. Rhea nodded on screen. We will hold the date until 5 p.m., then release. Nolan lunged to unplug the projector. I stepped between, and he stopped, eyes wet, jaw iron. You're jealous, he hissed. Because no one dresses up to watch you work. The funny thing about being an EMT is how boredom and crisis blend. You learn to be calm around flailing limbs and expensive suits. I'm scared, I said softly, for my sister's future. The attorney ushered Nolan out. Mom hovered, torn between her glossy dream and the paperwork bleeding all over it. Ms. Patel handed Carter a card. If Ms. Hall wishes to remove herself from any obligations, she should contact counsel immediately. Lena sat down slowly, like the chair might vanish. Is my wedding canceled? She asked no one. It's paused, Rhea said. And that is a mercy. I walked Lena to the elevator. People stared as if a fire alarm had whispered. My phone vibrated nonstop, texts from numbers I didn't save, accusations, rumors, pity. Back at work, my supervisor reassigned me to supply check. Less public, he said gently. At 4:58 p.m., Nolan posted a story that detonated whatever peace remained. His story, a black screen with white text, pray for people who sabotage love, and a tag for Lena. Comments exploded, half of them scripture, half of them knives. I blocked, muted, and breathed until my lungs remembered how. Lena called at 6:12. I need help, she said, voice small. We met at Aunt May's. We made lists. We called Carter to file a police report about the forged initials and to draft notices to vendors pausing contracts, pending investigation. We set a rule, all help in writing, no cash, no secret favors. I changed my locks and helped Lena change hers. We turned off Nolan's access to the shared calendar, the cloud albums, the wedding website. At therapy, Aunt May's recommendation, I said, I thought doing the right thing would feel clean. The therapist said, it rarely does. It feels like grief with paperwork. I wrote to Ms. Patel to initiate steps removing Lena as guarantor. She replied with a checklist that looked like a ladder out of a hole. Lena stayed with Aunt May, who fed us soup as if soup could keep predators away. At night, I lay awake, afraid that Nolan would spin a new story faster than facts could walk. Then Lena texted a photo of her ring in a dish by the sink, the simplest altar. Tomorrow, she wrote, I return it. Outside my window, sirens threaded the dark like sewing needles, closing something open. Then an email from the planner arrived, subject line. Alternate ceremony option, private, no guests, today. We met the planner at a coffee shop, Carter at our side. He wants to marry privately to avoid embarrassment, she muttered, rolling her eyes toward a corner booth where Nolan waited alone, thumb tapping like a metronome. Lena's hands trembled. Don't go over there, I said, unless you're going to say goodbye. She went anyway, brave or bleeding, I still can't tell. 10 minutes later, she returned without the ring and without tears. I told him the truth doesn't need an audience, she said, voice steady. It just needs a spine. The planner canceled the backup, no guest ceremony. Carter filed the notices. Ms. Patel confirmed the lender received Lena's withdrawal from any guarantees tied to unapproved addenda. Rhea released the venue with a note. Client requests future credits be held pending dispute. Life did not turn into sunshine because we chose boundaries. It turned into bills and calls and the quiet project of cleaning the glitter out of a carpet that never belonged to us. When people ask why I wasn't at my sister's wedding, I say, because I loved her enough to miss it. If you're watching this and someone tells you silence is love, ask for receipts, dates, initials. Speak softly, Write clearly, keep copies. Hope looks like Aunt May's porch light, steady in the wind. Courage looks like Lena driving away from a dress she still loved. And sometimes survival looks like choosing the empty aisle over the wrong altar.